Okay, so the day that I'm recording this is the day that all the data came out that the Nintendo Switch 2 is basically the fastest selling console of like any time ever in most major regions, which is super exciting and super cool. I was always someone very excited about the Switch 2 from launch, so that's exciting to see. And I want to inject a little bit more positivity into the general conversation here. One of my favorite things about the Nintendo Switch 2 in this initial launch period, I guess, is not even so much the launch itself, because yeah, of course we have Mario Kart and a few of the third-party games, got big videos I'm working on for like the entire launch spectacle. But what I'm loving is that we are guaranteed to not just have this one exciting launch and then we have to wait a while for things to really kick off. That even happened with the original Switch for a while. We already have a super exciting future for the Switch 2 from first party mostly, but a few third parties as well. What I was kind of feeling like the Switch 2 needed was not necessarily to feel like it was a strict hardware jump where we have to cut the line from Switch 1, move on to Switch 2. We're embracing the whole idea of Switch 1 games running better on Switch 2 anyway, so if we incorporate the first party exclusives that are coming out in the future that are on Switch 1, as well as a bunch of exclusives like Nintendo going ahead and announcing a random Splatoon spinoff on their Nintendo Today app, the lineup that we have going forward is so incredibly strong, and I'm like just super excited about it, and I just want to talk about it for a little bit because we got really exciting like last 6 months of the year. The rest of 2025 honestly could rival the first year of the Switch 1, which had Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Xenoblade 2. Like, it's going very strong right now. Oh, it's gonna be good. It was so confusing to me for a while that people would argue up and down if Mario Kart World alone was worth the price of the Switch 2 getting it on launch. And like, I get it. You could always argue that not only if it's like worth the $80 price point, if it's even worth the admittedly pretty expensive like $500 console like the bundle, but we know 1 month in we're getting Donkey Kong Bananza, a full-blown like fan service. It looks like 3D platformer with Donkey Kong, the first DK 3D platformer in so many years. And I'm assuming it's by the Odyssey team. Like, it just looks like it has that fluidity to it. I really love the new redesign of DK, and it just seems like it's going to be a really fun time. Looks like it's going to be a different take on the typical 3D platformer with the whole world destruction thing. But okay, let's just say, for instance, you're not super into Donkey Kong Bonanza, even though I feel like most people are. When you look at the rest of the first party lineup, and I think it is safe to say that we can throw Nintendo Switch 2 editions into the mix. Like, luckily there's not a whole lot of debate as to whether or not they count as Switch 1 games or Switch 2 games. They're just simply gonna run a lot better on Switch 2, which is exciting. But man, this lineup is honestly just nuts. We got Pokemon Legends ZA, and I loved Arceus. I think that is one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time. I know that officially Pokemon Company considers it like a mainline game, but it's hard for me mentally to not put a typical like generation as it just being like the simple like 2 release strategy. Like, it's hard for me to fathom considering the Legends games as mainline, but whatever. The first full mainline game that's going to take, you know, some advantage of the Switch 2. It's going to run a whole lot better than it could have possibly done on Switch 1. So at the very least, the comparisons are going to be really funny because there is a Switch 1 version of that. Metroid Prime 4 looks absolutely incredible, and like all the footage that they've shown that is seemingly the Switch 1 version, like it does look really good, like super impressive for that hardware, but to just have it run even better, 4K 60 or 1080 120, and then you have the mouse controls on Switch 2. I've been playing a little bit of Cyberpunk on Switch 2, and the mouse controls are really cool. So to play Metroid with that is going to be just, oh my god, it's going to be glorious. We still have these like really cool upgrades to Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Super Mario Party Jamboree coming with these dedicated Switch 2 editions. And I know there's so much like conversation on whether or not these upgrade packs that are premium prices are going to be worth it or not. I'm excited for just the new content in both because I think that Forgotten Land and Jamboree are some of the best games in their like respective series. So to get better versions of those base games with new content that takes advantage of the new console power, like 60 FPS for Kirby, and you got sweet like mouse controls and camera stuff for Jamboree, I think they're going to be worth it. But you know, obviously time will tell on that one. But I love the idea of going back to Switch 1 games and not only giving them the patch to make them run as flawlessly as they can on the new hardware, but to give new content to them. I don't know, I made a whole video about the Switch 2 editions that I want, and it's so cool that, you know, hopefully we get more of those. Plus you got the satisfaction of like, if for some reason you haven't picked these games up yet, you can buy the Switch 2 edition and then they work on a Switch 1, which is neat if you're someone who like hasn't bought a Switch 2 yet, you're planning on it, and you haven't played Forgotten Land yet. Like, you can just go ahead and buy this new game and then pop it into Switch 1, get the upgrades later. just a fascinating thing. I think Switch 2 editions are fascinating. And then there's still a few games that we're waiting on, like so many details on: Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Kirby Air Riders, Drag X Drive. Now we got the brand new Splatoon game with Splatoon Raiders. And the thing is, like, there could very well be a Nintendo Direct around the time this video comes out. I'm recording it before we got any more details on it. Everything is currently listed for this year, which is absolute insanity. And let's just say that like 1 or 2 of these games slip by into next year. I have my doubts that Kirby Air Riders is in fact a 2025 release. This is still an incredibly strong lineup. And if one of these games does get pushed over into 2026, that means it's going to share the same year as Rhythm Heaven. Oh my god, we're getting a new Rhythm Heaven game after so long. I'm so excited. And a brand new Tomodachi Life, which, like, going back to the reveal trailer, I don't think this was a stylistic choice for it to have that kind of choppy animation to maybe be reminiscent of the 3DS game. I don't know. I just feel like that is going to be a game that will get a Switch 2 edition, I guess. Rhythm Heaven may not need it. I mean, 4K Rhythm Heaven would look nice because that art is so good, but that's still a super stacked lineup that, quite frankly, I would still consider that as part of like the lineup to get excited for. Even if they're not Switch 2 exclusive, they're still gonna have versions that take advantage of the newer hardware, and that may as well count. I think the whole idea of like these cut and dry generational jumps is a thing of the past anyway. Like, I was starting to get a whole lot more enjoyment out of my PS5 when I stopped like really caring about needing PS5 games because I wasn't getting them and just enjoying any PS4 game that was happening as well. So I'm going into the Switch 2 generation with the same mentality, except because so many Switch 1 games run kinda poorly, any upcoming Switch 1 game could also just inherently run a little bit better. And that's so sick. Because man, the rest of like even the third-party games are super exciting. Like, bro, you may even think that Tamagotchi Plaza, this minigame collection, is gonna be big whatever, but the Switch 2 edition has specific mouse-themed minigames, and I'm such a Wii fan with gimmicky controller nonsense that I'm actually kind of excited just for that. Just for the mouse minigames. Like, the rest of it, I don't know if it's gonna be good or not, but I like the idea that there's gonna be something to actually use the mouse mode. We already have like more games that use the mouse mode than Switch 1 games that use the stupid IR camera, so that's a win in my book. Yeah, this third-party lineup, we got a sequel to Daemon X Machina, which looks like it could be kind of cool, the Final Fantasy Tactics remaster, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake, and like the thing is, I really loved Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, but it did like not run the best on Switch 1. It ran fine, but the resolution was lower than I wanted it to be. The frame rate took a few hitches when there were some special effects during the battles. Nothing super game-breaking, it's like a slower-paced RPG anyway. But to have a native Switch 2 edition of this game, if you want to get the Switch 1 version and then do the upgrade path, by all means, but I'm really excited that I'm going to have that on offer as well. God, we're supposed to be getting a new Professor Layton game, Hades 2, Reanimal looks sick. We're getting Sonic Racing Cross Worlds having a native Switch 2 edition, which is so exciting. That needed to be a thing. The Switch 1 version is going to be fascinating to look at. Like every Sonic game on Switch 1, like I really feel like it's not going to run the greatest on that console, but now having a Switch 2 edition, ooh, I don't know, we might have a contender now for like a game that could easily be beating Mario Kart World on the same console. I have high hopes for that game and I could be setting myself up for failure, but that's where I'm at. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition is supposed to be this year as well. I feel like that one could slip into next year, I don't know, but I am excited for Duskbloods. Like, here's the thing, as a Nintendo fan, I do play my console, like my Nintendo console, more than any other, even though I have access to everything else. And it's not for not wanting to play other games, it's just that I'm stuck, I have such a backlog on one console, I stick to it. So I have not gotten to play Elden Ring yet, because in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe on the next console, and sure enough, that's what we're getting. So I'm excited to give that game a shot, finally, and then I'm gonna prepare myself to play Duskblood, so we're already psyching ourselves even more for a really hype 2026. And you know there's gonna be so many indies like just popping off out of nowhere. Like, it's mid-June when I'm recording this, and there could very easily, mid-July, an indie game pops up out of nowhere that looks fantastic and is just gonna add even more gameplay time to my Switch 2. There's this indie game coming out called Mousework. It's by Nitrome. They've made a lot of really good pixelated indie games in the past, and it's just a mouse-themed minigame collection, and it looks great. Once again, it's the type of gimmicky nonsense I'm such a Wii fanboy over, so I'm super excited about that. And that obviously, like, this doesn't really scratch the surface because there's still Switch 1 games that I'm playing that are either enhanced inherently by the Switch 2 or have a dedicated Switch 2 patch. Like Fantasy Life I came out like so soon before the Switch 2, and it ran fine enough, but now there's a Switch 2 edition, so that's another game that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in. I would think that counts as like obviously an inherent Switch 2 game, even though there's like no direct physical of it. I'm loving the GameCube emulator that they have on there, so any additional game that they throw in there, like Mario Strikers with online play, it's going to be so good. There's no real point to this video. This is just me rambling about being excited about the future of the Switch 2 in a way that I haven't been excited about a new console in its launch, like, period, in a long time. I bought a PlayStation 5 and a Series X, maybe not on launch day, but like really close. Definitely the end of that year I had both consoles, because I just bought into the hype of new hardware and what the future would hold. And it's not that I really hate my time with these consoles, even though sometimes I joke on social media about it. I enjoyed them fine enough, but I was sold on something about this massive leap towards new hardware, and I only feel like 5 years in, I'm really starting to feel like, okay, things are really kicking off. I'm recording this only like 2 weeks in to the Switch 2 being in my possession, and I already feel like the money's gonna be justified because I have such a strong lineup of games coming out in just the next few months. And I plan on covering like all the games I'm excited about. Like that's one of the main reasons why I wanted this channel in the first place, because there's gonna be some games that I can't make a big video on the main channel about, but damn it, I'm mildly interested in Drag X Drive, all right? Or Dragon Drive, whatever you want to call it. And I'm gonna want to talk about it. So here we go. I'm a sucker for the hype. I hope you are too. Whether or not you got a Switch 2 at launch, you're gonna get one soon, or maybe you're asking for it for like a gift this holiday season. I just feel like if you are someone who does consume maybe too much social media, you may be hearing a little bit too much negativity surrounding this console, when in reality you saw the sales numbers, things are going pretty well. I just want to spread some more positivity because I think it's actually a super exciting time. I think Nintendo is sticking the nailing with a console tradition like this, maybe better than they've ever had. Because like the Switch 1 obviously was a massive success, but after Breath of the Wild, it did take a little bit to like really start to pick up the pace, and then especially get third parties on board. Meanwhile, this console is just hitting the ground running, and it's an exciting time. I'm excited, and I hope you are too. That's all I have to say. Let me know what your most anticipated Switch 2 game is, whether it is first party or third party, whatever it is. Or just like a really hot indie game, like Hades 2. Hades was such a big deal on Switch 1, and now we have the sequel, I guess, is gonna make a console debut this year. That's exciting. Yeah, just let me know down below. Let me know your positivity on the Switch 2, or maybe you still hate it. Maybe you're listening to me go on too much about the Nintendo Switch 2 and you want to call me a massive Nintendo shill and fanboy and whatever other gamer bad word you want to call me. You can throw that down in the comments as well. That's fine. I'm like 2 hours into another Wind Waker run. I haven't played that game in years, so I'm gonna go back to do that. Okay? Bye, everyone.